important to know the history of the political parties in this country so you know who's trying to put money into your pocket, who's trying to take it out, who's trying to help you, who's trying to fleece you, and so forth. If you look at the history, the New Deal, a lot of the benefits we have now are predominantly given us to by FDR, who had like 3 or 4 terms as president, and also by the labor unions, okay? But predominantly, the New Deal was carried out by FDR, and he created Social Security. Johnson came up with Medicare in '68, I believe, and all the programs that are important. Unemployment insurance, Medicaid. So let me tell you this. Make sure you understand the history, because that way you know who to vote for. Who's trying to help you, who's trying to hurt you, okay? Look at the history of the Republican Party. Have they been trying to put more money into your pocket or into the pocket of the millionaires and billionaires in corporate America, okay? If you're a Democrat, Joanna, let me just say, get involved with your local Democratic Party and get out there and support the Democratic Party. Help them win so they can support you. And if you're a Republican, well, Joanna, look at the data, look at your history, and if you want Social Security to be there for you, sorry to say, but you have to vote Democratic. If you want Social Security to be there for you, and this is the reason why, folks, we all have to start looking out for each other, okay? We don't want to be divided and conquered all the time. This is that's how the Republicans win. They keep having us fight amongst each other, not getting ahead. Scott Walker, they have him on video. I think it was the governor of Minnesota. He before he left, before he was voted out, he was on record but saying that what we do is we divide and conquer the Democrats. And yes, they're doing that. So what I'm saying is this. The people on Social Security have to support the unions. Both together have to support LGBT movements and the Black Lives Matter movement. We all have to support each other. So we're stronger together so that the Republicans can't keep dividing us and have us fight amongst each other while they're fleecing us, while them and the corporations are fleecing us. Let me read this story to you. It's relevant to your question. This is dated USA Today, 2/12/2020. I'm going to quote now from it. After Democrats accused him of breaking his campaign pledge, Trump restated his earlier vow, writing on Twitter, "We will not be touching your Social Security or Medicare in fiscal 2021 budget." End of quote. Yet Trump's words and his administration's actions are not in alignment. Case in point from the article, his fiscal 2021 budget released Monday includes cuts to the Social Security program. So why aren't retirees up in arms? According to the article, that's because the reductions are aimed at the part of Social Security program that provides benefits to about 8.5 million disabled workers, and not the monthly retirement benefits that most retirees get. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. The people not up in arms because their security benefits have not been touched yet, folks. Yet. They should be up in arms about it because the Republicans are coming after the benefits and Medicare, and Medicaid as well. So really, the Social Security people are getting the benefit checks. They should be supporting the people who are going to lose their disability or have to experience cuts in their disability. Okay, like I said, we all got to support each other, so that can't happen. Why? This is what happened at the end of the war. I'm going to quote you now a poem that was written in 1946 by the German Lutheran pastor Martin Niemöller. Okay, it's a very famous poem. Let me read it out. And this directly affects this question about your question about is Social Security going to be there for us? It won't be there unless you fight for it. This is his poem. First it came, I'm quoting now, first it came for the socialist. I did not speak out because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist. I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade unionist. And they came for the Jews. I didn't speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me. And then there was no one left to speak for me. Okay? You get that, folks? We have to support each other. Black Lives Matter movement, the LGBT movement, they have to support each other along with the Social Security recipients. All get together, support the unions, and that's how we keep the system solvent. Fight for what? Fight for your benefits, okay? And that's what we got to go. Keep fighting, otherwise we'll lose them. Excellent question, Joanna. Okay, show's topics today: socialist medications in California, America's war on pregnancy, millennials love socialism, and social welfare benefits in Ireland. So, let me get right to socialized drug manufacturing in California to save patients money. let's watch this clip, folks. Give you an idea of how people are suffering health-wise.
We got married outside of Pittsburgh, where we're both from.
22 years after their wedding, Gloria Rickard's husband David was diagnosed with brain cancer, beginning a regimen of prescriptions that continues today.
I walked into the pharmacy at UCSD, and they looked at me and said, well, that'll be $570. It was like 4 or 5 pills. It's like, okay, so this is what you want me to pay, and if I can't do that, then I guess he'll just die, and I guess that'll be cheaper for the insurance company, too.
On Friday, Governor Newsom announced plans to create CalRx, the state's own generic drug label, and he hinted insulin is a top priority.
If we do this right, no one in the United States will have done something as transformative as this.
The idea is to drive down prices by boosting competition, along with other reforms designed to leverage California's market power.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a great idea. First of all, let me say that news article, that clip came from ABC News Channel 10. I'm not going to quote you from BBC.com. Dated January 9th, 2020, labeled World, U.S., Canada. So let me give you the backstory behind this. California could become the first state with its own prescription drug label. Governor Newsom wants California to contract with generic companies to make prescription medications on its behalf so it can sell them to the public to lower prices by increasing competition in the generic marketplace, which is like 85% of all prescriptions sold, I believe. Now, here's some personal stories from that BBC article. I'm going to tell you 2 stories. It's hard stuff to hear, folks, but I'm giving this information for a reason, okay? So here it is. This is the first story, personal story from the BBC News article, and I quote, "This is a list of what Laura Martson has sacrificed to keep herself alive. Her car, furniture, her apartment, her retirement fund, and her dog. At 36 years old, she has already sold all of her possessions twice to afford the insulin her body needs every day." That's story number 1. Story number 2. I quote, "When Nicole Smith's 26-year-old son Alec died, he had just moved out of his parents' home and was starting a life of his own. Alec was a type 1 diabetic, someone who needed to take insulin every day to survive, but turning 26 meant his parents' insurance would no longer cover the cost, shooting his monthly cost for insulin and supplies up to $1,300 per month, according to his mom. And I quote, "My son died because he could not afford his insulin," she said. You know, insulin has been on the market for decades and has steadily increased in price. Why? Because like 3 drug companies control most of the market for insulin. Governor Newsom's budget proposal would create a single market for drug pricing within California. The governor's office of drug makers would have to bid to sell their drugs in the state at a uniform price. Now, folks, insulin is not the only drug that's witnessed skyrocketing cost. Okay? Sit down for this one, folks, okay? A drug called Atcar surged more than, you ready for this? 100,000% from 2001 to today, rising from $40 a vial to more than $40,000 a vial, according to 60 Minutes. Folks, do you get now why we really need Bernie's Medicare for All plan? It's a no-brainer, folks. It really is a no-brainer. Okay, let's move on. Move on to America's war on pregnancy. So, this video comes to you from CBS This Morning. I'll also be quoting from the article at theatlantic.com titled "Life in the Only Industrialized Country Without Paid Maternity Leave," dated 3/3/2016. So let's go to that video and I'll come back and talk about it.
6 states and Washington, D.C. offer some form of paid family leave, but the majority of American workers are at the mercy of their employers. Alex Wagner is here with how much those company policies can vary. Alex, good morning.
Good morning, Bianna. Most industrialized countries offer at least 14 weeks of paid maternity leave. The only national parental leave policy in the U.S. is the now 26-year-old Family and Medical Leave Act. It guarantees workers job security for up to 12 weeks of time off, but there is no promise of a paycheck.
Why so fussy?
Before Finley arrived 4 weeks early via emergency C-section, Hannah Carden did her best to prepare.
Do you love him?
The Massachusetts emergency room nurse and mother of two took on extra shifts and even cashed out part of her 401k plan at a penalty to keep her family afloat during her 12 weeks of unpaid maternity leave. Even that wasn't enough. Carden's husband lost his job, her income tax refund was less than expected, and with just $500 to spare, she must now go back to work early, 10 weeks after giving birth to a premature baby.
Isn't that horrible, folks? Here's some backstory behind this issue. The United States and New Guinea are the only two countries out of 170 that don't provide financial support during maternity leave, according to the United Nations. In the United States, 70% of mothers work outside the home, and 40% of households are led by a female breadwinner. 88% of American workers have no access to paid leave, and half of new working mothers are ineligible even for the Family Leave Act's unpaid leave. Now I'm going to, like I said, I'm quoting from the article Atlantic right now. This lady called Tara, she didn't want to give her last name for privacy reasons, but I'm going to quote from the article now about Tara. This is Tara's story, and I quote, "Once I got pregnant and inquired about maternity leave, I was told I could not use sick time because I wasn't sick and childbirth is natural. She was 9 months pregnant, working full-time with a toddler at home. In the final days of her pregnancy, she was focused on not just delivering, she was focused not just on her delivery day, but on another deadline. Tara would have to be back at work 20 days after giving birth. I would need to take unpaid leave, so I went to the assistant superintendent, it's Tara talking now, so I went to the assistant superintendent with my 2-week-old and started nursing in his office because it is natural." Okay? To use his words. He was so embarrassed he agreed to change the company policy. Okay? You know, Tara's situation is pretty typical. Tara's husband suffered from a severe, painful autoimmune disorder, is unable to work. Tara is the family's sole earner. Her company offers no paid leave, and she's ineligible for unpaid leave because her employer falls below the FMLA's 50-employee threshold, even if she were eligible for unpaid leave. She wouldn't take it, saying, "My family can't afford the loss of even one paycheck." You know, there's no sugarcoating this, folks. The U.S. is the only developed country that doesn't guarantee statewide paid maternity leave for all mothers in America. Instead, they leave it up to employers to provide. Or 40% of companies choose not to offer any paid leave at all. So again, an American mother's quality of life as a U.S. citizen is a crapshoot. It's totally dependent upon the employee benefits of for-profit companies. Okay. Now, let me show you something. I know you can't see this chart. I'm going to, this is from the Seattle Times. This is a paid parental leave benefits chart in the United States. There are now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 states that have paid parental benefit leave programs. Okay? Washington, California, New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island. Oh, and Washington, D.C. too. But guess what? Most of those are blue states. Try finding one of these paid family leave program in a red state. Good luck with that, folks. Okay? You know, the National Defense Authorization Act that Trump signed into law recently does give 12 weeks of paid parental leave for all federal employees. Okay? But only federal employees. What about the rest of us? What are we, second-class citizens? How long are we going to put up with this BS? I'm sorry. Okay, let's move on. Move on to the spotlight story. Why millennials are fed up with capitalism. Let's watch this clip.
So my generation is fed up with capitalism. 44% of American millennials prefer to live in a socialist country. Now, there's criticism built into the survey itself, pointing out that they don't really know how to define properly socialism, communism, capitalism. And you know what? That's probably true, but I don't think that's the main point here at all. The main point is that millennials feel that they can no longer live in this dog-eat-dog world, that the air is filled with this super competitive, cutthroat mentality, filling the air with hostility. And so they feel that it doesn't make sense that we live in a highly technological world with 3D printing and AI and automation, and still we live like modern-day slaves, put in a rat race, struggling to make ends meet. They know that it doesn't make sense that up to 50% of all food produced globally is going to waste, while about half the people of the world are starving. They know it in their hearts that another world is possible. And in that respect, I completely and wholeheartedly agree with my generation. We have to actually recognize with all our critical faculties that caring for everyone else is caring for ourselves too. And I believe this change is inevitable.
Yeah, okay, so that video clip came from Crossroads Channel by Joseph Oahan. And I'll be quoting from a Huffington Post article, Why Millennials Favor Socialism, dated 4/11/2017. Well, let me give you the backstory first. Millennial children were in a lot of ways influenced by their parents for personal hardships during the last recession, 2008. Millennials started the career with more debt than any previous generation, primarily because of their student loan burden. So many had to live with their parents, others aren't getting married, others aren't having children, not buying homes. All those things impact the economy in a negative way, obviously, right? And millennials realized, most of all, that Reagan's trickle-down economics was a flat-out lie, okay? And, get this, folks, they also realized something else, that they were the first generation that either are or will be less well-off than their parents. That's the first in America, okay? Personal story about socialists in America. Let me give you three as an example. First one, Virginia elected its first socialist, called name is Lee Carter, a socialist that was elected to the Virginia House of Delegates. Another one, her name was Kshama Sawant, first socialist Seattle City Council member, recently re-elected to a second term. Now let me say this again about Kshama Sawant. First Seattle City Council member ever, okay, but then get this, she was recently re-elected to a second term. Imagine this in America, a socialist re-elected to a second term. Huh? Then we have Joshua Collins. This guy's interesting. Democratic Socialist truck driver running for Washington's 10th Congressional District. Now Joshua has a really interesting platform. I'm not choosing him now, obviously I'm at Stockton, he's in Washington. But if you go to Joshua2020.com, look at his platform items. He has a plethora of items he's going to address if he gets elected. It's incredible. Let me just read to you. I'll just read to you. These are the big subjects, but you can drill down and find out the details on each one. He's going to try and address women's rights, the gay agenda, trans rights, immigration rights, housing rights, gun safety, ending abuse, the Green New Deal, sustainable food, eco-socialism, water is life, Medicare for all, prescription drug prices, disability rights, humane drug policy, Black Lives Matter, criminal justice reform, student debt, K-12 education, a job for everyone, revitalizing unions, retirement security, political corruption, revitalizing democracy, and indigenous rights. It's incredible. This is the most comprehensive platform of a democratic socialist I've ever heard. Okay, I've ever seen, actually. So yeah, I mean, we have these people I just mentioned, they are really the new FDRs, okay? So when millennials see other countries offering free college education, they often wonder why we can't have it here, right? In the greatest country in the world, you always hear that, right? If European countries can make socialism work, it should work here too. You've just heard it in the video, right? Millennials also see how affordable universal healthcare is in countries like Norway and wonder why the healthcare system here is so messed up and costly, okay? And most millennials, well, many anyway, 44%. Socialism means a society that cares about the quality of life for its citizens. such as in providing them with taxpayer-funded health care, college, parental leave, child care, pensions, and elder care, and consists of a government that protects them to a great extent from profit over people, C corporations. And it's also, socialism is pretty simple, folks. It's basically Bernie slogans. It's basically everything is inherent in Bernie Sanders' slogan, not me, us. If you want to understand what socialism is, it boils down to not me, us. Pretty simple to understand, okay? Now, let me give you some other examples of socialism in the United States. Ready for this list? K through 12 education, public transportation, fire departments, police departments, public libraries, every branch of the U.S. military, roads and highways, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, public prisons and jails, public hospitals, the VA administration, public universities, public parks, public toilets, public drinking fountains, public parking. We live in a hybrid society, okay? It's mixed, okay? There's not a developed country in the world that exists without police, firefighters, libraries, and public roads. Those are all public services, as in the socialist services. So don't be scared of that word. We have it already here in America, okay? Socialism boils down to the services that citizens demand and the government must provide. And those two services can only be provided through taxation, folks. Those services can only be provided through taxation. So socialism is a system where, get this, well, wait for this, right? Everyone pays for the benefit of everyone. Let me say this again. Socialism is a system where everyone pays for the benefit of everyone. Okay. So let's move on now to How Great We Are segment. In this segment, I'll talk about all the countries that are on the UN World Happiness Report. They're happier than we are. We're number 19. I think we're still number 19 in 2020. All these countries, this is the last country I'm going to talk about today, which is Ireland, which is the 16th happiest country in 2020. And again, this information comes to you from the World Happiness Report, which is an annual publication of the United Nations Sustainable Development Solutions Network. The information we'll provide to you comes from citizensinformation.ie. So let's talk about Ireland. Taxes in Ireland go towards funding the environment, healthcare, education, and a bunch of other social services. And since citizens use and see the importance of these services, few Irish citizens complain about the taxes that are needed to support them. Now, I'm going to read this again. It's really important. Taxes in Ireland go towards funding the environment, healthcare, education, and a bunch of other social services. And since Irish citizens use and see the importance of these services every day, few Irish citizens complain about the taxes that are needed to support them. Taxes are approximately between 40% for incomes between 40,000 EUs and 70,000 EU, which is about 35,000 US dollars to 60,000 US dollars, the middle class. Taxes are between 40%, but that 40% buys you. You're paying for services, right, without the middleman. Okay, so what do they have? What does Ireland have? They have a maternity benefit that's paid for 6.5 months. Paternity leave is paid for 2 weeks. 100% of the population has full coverage, healthcare coverage. 37% of those individuals get it for free. They have this, get this, they have a deserted wife's allowance. They have a prisoner's wife allowance. There is a weekly tax-free payment available to employees with children. They have a back-to-school clothing and footwear allowance. It's paid yearly to families. There is a living alone benefit, a supplementary payment for people on social welfare pensions who are living alone. Everyone aged 66 years and older, permanently living in Ireland, is entitled to free public transportation. Ireland's basic individual health care for someone like 35 years old or so costs about between $50 and $70 per month. Comprehensive coverage costs for a family of 4 is about $150 to $200 a month. You read that right, $150 to $200, not $1,500 to $2,000 a month. Okay, $150 to $200 a month. They're not America, folks. It's much better than the U.S. system, where the fees are not regulated by the government here for most of us. So healthcare companies here can fleece us with impunity. That's not the case in Ireland. Okay? So, as the show comes to an end, I just wanted to let you know that this segment of the show, since I've completed all the countries that are greater than the United States, in the U.S. World Happiness Report will be replaced by, I'm going to be talking about U.S. states that provide benefits to their citizens, which are close, maybe, to some of these socialist countries. And I'll be also talking about B corporations and benefit corporations. I've showcased some already, like the Patagonia Company. Okay, next show is going to be Thursday, February 20th. I'm going to be talking about, well, I'll either have a guest on that show or I'll be talking about these issues. Talking about Propaganda 101, Obamacare, healthcare stories. I'm going to be talking about hungry college students, talking about typical American family hardships, and then I'm going to be talking about the Kickstarter company. But I may have a guest on the show. I'm not sure yet. Okay, well, that's the show for today, folks. Thanks for listening. This is Dick Bernsdorf at 89.5 FM KBCC Community Radio in Tracy. And always remember, under democratic socialism, the people who produce the profits and the people who receive the profits are the same people. Have a great day.